Hi, this is Dana Miller, senior reporter with HNN. And I do have to say, preface that this episode is a little bittersweet for me. Our guest today, who will be entering retirement soon, has been in the industry for more than 2 decades. He served as CEO of Chesapeake Hospitality prior to its merger with Remington Hospitality, and most recently has served as the president for Remington. And truly, he is among the most kind people I've ever met in this industry. And I know that's funny to say because everybody should be kind in the hospitality industry, but he really exudes this far, far and beyond. And he's just so easy to talk to, puts everybody at ease, has a beaming smile, and he'll just crack a joke at any point. And I'm sure we'll hear a couple through this podcast today, but he's definitely someone you want in your circle. And if you haven't met him yet, we will absolutely get to know him on this podcast. So please welcome Chris Green. Chris, thank you so much for joining us.
Dana, you're too kind. It's an honor to be back. And I love spending time and
Yeah.
talking with you and talking about our industry. And so, yes, you're right. We should all be very hospitable, right? That's what we do for a living.
Yes. Good. Well, we will get into a whole bunch of things, but first I want to start off with a fun question because you are my favorite person when it comes to throwing out acronyms and fun sayings and who knows what else. I want to tell you some that you've said to me in the past, and I want to see if you can remember what they stood for or the context around it or anything. But the first one, and this is from your mouth, not mine.
All right.
The first one is Greaser. Do you remember what that was about?
I do remember Greaser, and I think Greaser is still going on. I think that's going to be a permanent thing. So
Okay.
Greaser was a follow-on to Bleisure, and Greaser was when you combine people that are including leisure travel on either the beginning or the back end of groups that they're attending.
Yes.
And I think this is really still going to continue on because now with the flexibility in work schedules and just people's desire to really travel, that if you're already going to a conference or a meeting, why not go ahead and throw on a couple days if it's a town you haven't been to? So Greaser's a thing and it's going to stay a thing.
All right, you got it. Let's see if you can get the next one. Okay, Gribbet.
I do remember it, Dana, because these both came out at the same time, I think.
They did.
And it's very similar. It's individual business travel combined with leisure. No,
Yep.
group.
Oh,
Grivet.
yeah.
Group. There we go. And that is the same thing. So, you have small to medium businesses that were trying to figure out ways to A, get to see their customers, but B,
Yep.
since they're working remote, we're going to have a meeting. So they would throw together a meeting of 20, 30 of their sales team or whatever operations team. And then when they're in the market, they would go do some customer calls. So you'd be combining individual business travel with the group component. So again, I think blended travel is here to stay. So whatever it looks like, whether it's a vacation and then at the end of the vacation you do some business, or if you go to a group, like if I go to Scottsdale later this year, I'm definitely going to stay a couple days and do some hiking or play golf on the back end of a conference, right? It just makes sense.
Mhm. Okay, good. And I think
Are there more?
you're right.
Are there more?
There's one more, and this one isn't really like a guessing one. I just loved the slogan that you said. I'll give you some context. It was when we were talking with Gilbert Arredondo at HDC last year in August 2023. We were talking about group business, and Gilbert had said that the company at that time was getting calls within 3 weeks for weddings, just super short notice. And I said, do you guys say yes to those groups that are calling within such short notice? And you said, if she said yes, we'll say yes. Host your wedding with Remington Hospitality. And I loved that one.
We've had a good time. I think you're going to get me all choked up when I start thinking about the remainder of our conversation.
Yeah.
But that's fun.
Yeah.
It all really relates to, I've always pushed people to try and think at a very high level about our business. And so when you think, I mean, I know I make jokes, Greaser and Gribbet and all that, but really when you're talking to the teams, you want them to be able to get the concepts you're trying to get across. So when you think about something like Greaser, then you do need to be thinking about what do you offer to group attendees, or what can you do in advance when they're in the dream state about going to a certain conference or whatever, to offer them to extend their stays to drive additional volume on both ends of the meeting.
Right.
So it's really just a thought process where you break it down to where people can latch onto it. They think it's funny, but they
Yeah,
do remember it. You remembered it.
I
So
did. Yeah.
yeah.
I wish all my teachers in school had stuff like that and I'd remember everything for life, but
Right.
so let's get to a little bit more of some serious stuff. So obviously your retirement is coming up. Last day as president of Remington will be April 5th. How are you feeling at this stage in your career? Has it really sunk in yet? What are you really feeling these days?
When you've been as responsible as I have been for the past 30 plus years, which
Mhm.
I'm very thankful. I've been in leadership roles for a lot of my career, and there really is a lot that's crammed into a 24-hour day. You
Mhm.
just, especially if you have a family and you're as committed to your family as I am, and then you've got a demanding job, and my work has always been my family too. So I
Right.
care. I care deeply about our teams and about our hotels and our guests. So
Mhm.
it is a little. I actually told someone the other day that it's a little bit. I feel like I'm a little bit adrift, and what I mean by that is I'm untying all of these lines that have been tied to all these years. Where I'm holding.
Mm.
You imagine yourself in a boat, kind of holding ropes at a pier, and you're kind of holding all these different ropes. And I'm starting to be able to drop some ropes, and so it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've actually found a little space for some things that I have wanted to do, and I
Yeah.
can share some of that. But also, for sure, it's a little weird that my email when I wake up, it doesn't have 300 new emails. It has
Right.
3 or 5.
Right.
So it's very very different,
Yeah.
and I'm excited. I don't know. We'll have to revisit, maybe in a year and say, okay,
Yeah.
what's it been like, Chris? What's it been like? So.
Right.
Um, I love this business and I love the people. I love doing what we're doing right now, talking about
Mhm.
it. So it's going to be a void. And I'm sure if you know me at all, I'm not somebody that's just going to sit around. I
Right.
got stuff I want to do. So I'm going to fill it with other stuff.
Right.
We'll just have to see what all that is.
This reminds me of a story that was told at Hunter last week. It was Mitch Patel of Vision Hospitality interviewing Marriott's Tony Capuano, and they were
Hmm.
talking about Bill Marriott. And Tony was saying how Bill, they had a big retirement dinner for him some years ago. He's 92 this month, and truly, he was saying, okay, retirement means nothing to Bill Marriott. He's still so involved, within the company life, the associate's life. So, like you said, once you get in hospitality, it's really hard to drift away from it. I know you said you're dropping some ropes, but it's still like a part of who you are always. And I think, you're of course not going away for good. You'll be transitioning to an advisory role with Remington, which is amazing. Was curious if you can share more about that and the types of projects you'll be working on, maybe what that day to day will be like, if you can kind of, guess on that for now.
Sure. Well, the first thing is it's not day to day. That's the exciting part for me. So
Yeah, true.
it'll be, sporadic work, but the work I'll be doing is continuing to support Sloan and this team as they build out their third party vertical, right? The
Mhm.
whole the whole genesis of the Chesapeake acquisition, which is now 2 years ago,
Wow,
um, I know it's crazy,
it is.
was to really accelerate Remington's growth in third party, which with all the reporting that you've done, you know that it's gone swimmingly well.
Yes.
Move into Latin America, all of the new
Mhm.
additions that we've recently added, a bunch of assets out in California, and in the central US. So it's really working. But with all the years I have on third party, they asked me to stay and just kind of speak into that business as we continue to grow it out and just be there for Sloan as he needs questions and the team,
Mhm.
right? And so I'm going to be on the advisory board, and so I might the commitment may be a couple days a month,
Mhm.
here and there, but or whatever they need me, right? So I
Yeah.
said I'll see you at lodging. We've got a meeting out there. I'm going to be attending, so they're just things like that, just to help support them as they really flesh out what remains to be done on building out the third party model and really pursuing Sloan's goal of being the best, not the
Right.
biggest, the
Yep.
best. And so that's an easy goal for me to support. When somebody has that kind of vision,
Mhm.
it's easy to say, okay, I can get behind that.
Right. And you guys can already trust, the team that has come together to execute on that vision. So, yeah, this does seem like more of a fun, creative role to kind of, be a helpful advocate for things, but just trust and let go for the team.
Yeah, I've always been. I'm not a micromanager, and I've always been
Yeah.
able to let people run and do their thing.
Mhm.
But the I did always know what was going on. So the new part is I don't really know everything because I'm
Mhm.
not there day to day.
Right.
So as I start slowing down,
Yeah,
that's probably going to be
definitely.
the interesting part for me. You could call me, and say, what was the, RevPAR last week in,
Yeah.
whatever hotel in New York at the Hyatt, and I could
Yeah.
tell you because I just used to read everything all the time.
Yeah.
And now, if you ask me what it was last week, I got to tell you I don't know what it was. I didn't look yet. So I mean,
Oh, okay. So it's starting. You're starting to kind of, get back into maybe looking at different things and maybe not checking all the metrics every morning.
yeah,
Okay.
I checked the big ones, but probably
Yeah.
individual properties I've started slowing down on. So
Okay. That's good to
yeah,
know. Well, hopefully you'll still read hotelnewsnow.com, but
of course, that's where I get all my news.
So, Chris, I don't think I've ever actually asked you this question before, but if you don't mind, I'd love for you to share how you got started in the industry and what ultimately kept you in it.
So I was, and this is, boy, I know how you're so young, Dana, that I actually started in management. My first management role was a video store, and I was 18 years
Oh,
old, and it was a local video store.
okay.
Yes, the kind where you go rent VHS tapes. And I was so excited that I was the manager. I had two total employees, and it was a little tiny store. But
Wow.
this is like 1988, I think it was,
Okay.
and there was a company coming on the scene that was really making waves, and it was called dun 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 Blockbuster Video.
Yes.
And so they came and they hired me. They came over and they said, "We're going to be opening these big giant stores. We need people to run them." And I went over there, and I loved retail, but it wasn't my passion. So I was there
Yeah.
for a period of time until a recruiter came from Steak and Ale Restaurants, which was
Oh,
an older restaurant chain out of Dallas, and they hired me as a kitchen manager. And I
okay.
really, at that time, I knew I loved hospitality. It was in my blood.
Mhm.
I kind of grew my career for the first 5 to 7 years in the restaurant side. I worked my way up to being a regional manager over 42 restaurants. And
Wow, that's
then
huge.
one day they came in and said, "We sold the company." And so I was 30 years old with a baby on the way. And they
Oh.
said, "Good news, we give you 6 weeks severance." And I'm like, 6 weeks? This is, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And
Mhm.
I just so I saw a posting for a human resource director of the Hilton
Mhm.
in Jacksonville, Florida. This
Mhm.
is January the 1st of 2000.
Okay.
And so I went in and I went in the lobby. I'm a very aggressive guy, as you can tell. And I went in and I sat in the lobby until I saw someone looking like the general manager walking by. And I hopped up and I said, "My name's Chris. I really
Mhm.
need a job. I'm really good. I can do a lot of things." And the guy was like, "Whoa, careful, young man." And so he actually interviewed that day. He was kind enough to interview me, and he hired me on the spot that day
No
as
way.
human resource director. So I started out, doing a director level job, but I had been in entry level jobs in the restaurant side and then worked my way up. So it's just an incredible business. And what I love
Yeah.
about the hotels compared to even restaurants, and I love all the restaurant people out there,
Mhm.
but I love that there's 8 or 10 different disciplines you can get into while you're in one building.
Right.
Engineering, housekeeping, food and
Mhm.
beverage, banqueting, sales and marketing, digital
Yeah.
marketing, revenue management. For a guy like me that's super a lot of energy and love learning new things, it just provided a great vehicle for me to learn so much in one
Right.
building.
Yeah, you don't even have to step outside to,
Nope.
have all these experiences firsthand.
Yeah.
Did you have anyone in your immediate family that worked in hospitality, or was this really just kind of you yourself really had a passion for this?
I always talk about my mom. She was not in hospitality per se,
Okay.
but listen, the minute somebody said, "Hey, we're going to come over for whatever, hang out
Yeah.
Saturday," we had a set, pattern. It's like, okay, get out the
Aw.
best dishes, do this, get out our, go get some, hamburgers or whatever we could afford. My dad was in the military,
Okay.
and let's make a pot of food. Let's have
Mhm.
something to drink. Let's make sure that our guests always get the best. And
Wow.
that just resonated with me. Um, and it's just stayed with me my whole career. I
Mhm.
always think about my mom when I think about serving others. She just
Mhm.
said that was a way to really express your love, for lack of a better
Mm.
word, for other people. So
That's sweet. I love
yeah.
that memory. So, like you said, you've had entry level jobs and you started in a director level job. So how I mean it's evident for me and people listening that I can see why you rose through the ranks pretty quickly. But what do you feel helped you along the way?
I talk about curiosity and and when people say curiosity, does that mean, Chris, you just like ask a lot of questions? Yes and no. What I mean is if you really want to do something in our industry, you can. That's the first thing I'll tell you.
Mhm.
There has never been a more open opportunity in hospitality than right now, and we can talk more about that. But coming out of the pandemic and getting back to business, which we are in 2024, and having labor shortages, and then having some people that were questioning whether hospitality was their thing through the pandemic, has
Mhm.
created this vacuum where we need great talent. And so, talented leaders that are willing to get in and ask the question, what does it look like to succeed in hospitality, and what does winning in a hotel look like, and what does leading a team with integrity and honesty and commitment, what does that look like, and how do I do that?
Mhm.
If we find people like that, and I know they're out there, the sky's the limit. And that's
Yeah.
what I did. I just would stay after people. I was like, oh, I'd go to the director of sales, who's one of my, he actually became one of the partners in Chesapeake with me. And I
Oh,
drove
okay.
him crazy. I'm like, Clifford, tell me about group sales. Even when I was in food and beverage, tell me about
Yeah.
group sales. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Or when revenue management came on the scene, Jeremy Baldwin, who is now a very high up with Aimbridge,
Okay.
was my first revenue director ever. And this is a long time ago when revenue management was barely a thing. And I used to wear that guy out. I just like, what is that? What is this? What is length of stay? What? Be curious, because our business, you've got to know all of these complex things. But once you
Yeah.
have them in your head, that's what I call making magic in hospitality. Is as a
Mhm.
leader, you have to be able to take all that data, whether it's the star report and the incoming, call volume, and then the group sales, and then labor report. You got to put all that in your head before you walk out of your office door at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then when you're out, you're using that data like a
Mhm.
computer, but all you're doing is smiling and talking to your people. And that's
Yeah.
the magic, right? So your front desk manager says, I need new uniforms for the team. And you just happen to review all your financials that morning while you're having your coffee, and you know that your group sales team booked a big event for the back half of this month
Mhm.
that was over budget, and then you say to him, no problem, get me an order and put it on my desk.
Yeah.
He thinks, wow, you're so generous and kind. Well, maybe, but I also just know that I found an extra 50 or $80,000 because I had a new
Mhm.
group book. So I always called it making magic because it looks simple outside the office doors,
Mhm.
but you got to ask every question to figure out what's next.
When you were early in your career and you asked all these questions, right? Did you ever have a fear in the back of your mind that you were maybe annoying or anything that like doubted you from continuing to learn from these people that have been in the industry, or do you feel like you just kind of went through it like I want to learn this, I know I can comprehend this, and then I can use this out in the field kind of attitude?
That's a really good question. I was never fearful of annoying them because one of the things I think you need to do if you're going to be persistent, which is fine,
Mhm.
is ensure that the goal of your persistence is not necessarily your own promotion,
Ah,
right?
yes.
If you are always after the greater good, if you're
Mhm.
always after what's best for hotel ABC that you're working at, or if I'm always after what's best for Dana Miller,
Mhm.
as your friend, then yes, if I come along for the ride, and that's really how I've seen my career. I can tell you that I don't remember, and maybe somebody will call me out on it. I don't remember ever asking for a promotion in my whole career after the first one, maybe, right? Like, what
Yeah.
does it take to become an AGM?
Right.
After that, people have come and said, we love the way you
Mhm.
pursue goodness for the rest of the company, and da da da. We think you'd be a great VP of operations.
Yeah.
And so you do this and that will come. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, there was a period, and there still is today, where people feel like I got to get mine. And if I
Mhm.
don't get mine, somebody else is going to get it. I
Yeah.
disagree with that completely. What I say is, help everybody get theirs, and you will be an undeniable force that people will say, this person helps everybody get theirs. They'd be a great leader of a team.
Mhm.
It's really it's flipping it on its head the way you think about leading people.
I got goosebumps. That was such good advice. And I'm sure it helped too having people around you that recognized your talents, saw the potential, and really kind of lifted you up to get into these roles. Not everyone has that, I'm sure, in some cases, but for those that do, that's amazing to have, teams like that can really push you forward.
Well, listen, I am not naive enough to know. As a matter of fact, I won't say who. Someone
Hmm.
close to me works in an environment where I told them that they really should leave.
Yeah.
Because if there's leadership that is only interested in, well, let me say this.
Hmm.
After I became maybe 34, and I talk about this in my book,
Okay.
um, I realized that the only profit to performance was people.
Yeah.
And I quit looking at the financial statements. I would review them at the end of the month, but what I worried about was how my people felt about the way I was leading, whether they had the tools they needed, and whether they were really enrolled in what we were trying to get done. And ever since I switched and just only did that, it just is interesting how the financials just rolled away. They were just
Yeah.
great. And unfortunately, in a lot of schools and a lot of leaders that are not well trained, they
Hmm.
focus on profit, 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 and people are just a product.
Right.
And I've always said, if I heard this a long time ago, it's not my quote, but if all you do is focus on cost, you'll eventually get your sales down to where you can handle them. And if you
Wow.
really think about that quote, it's true. Those leaders that lead like that,
Hmm.
eventually they just run their business out. They run their people out. Nobody wants to work for them. Um, I like to think people liked working with me and on my teams. I hope they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, I mean, I like interviewing you, so I think I can, sense that you do care about people. You really do. So, turning gears a little bit, could you give us maybe a little peek behind the curtain of the merger with Remington and sharing advice that you might give to those going through that a merger now or maybe are considering it? And I know I'm throwing a lot at you right now, but third part to that question is what you wish you knew then that you now know.
Well, let's take it in three parts.
Yep.
Let's take it in so we're 2 years into it, and I think
Mhm.
it's gone swimmingly well. And I think if you asked everybody, if you asked Sloan or the team over there, that it's gone swimmingly well. We did a few things up front, right? Due diligence is critical, and of course, when I say due diligence, then all the asset managers in the room are going to say, "Oh, well, we're going to look at all the numbers." Well, that's important, but what was really important was a cultural fit.
Yeah.
Would 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 the Chesapeake culture and the Remington culture come together?
Mhm.
Because no matter what anybody says, and while there's, you could name them off, like we can just go down the list: Ambridge and Davidson and
Mhm.
Highgate and Crescent and Hotel Equities and these are all great companies that do, and they all manage hotels. But guess what? They manage them all differently because of the way the cultures are in the organizations.
Mhm.
So Chesapeake was super high culture, super client focused. I would have called us, curated service is really how we felt about our relationship with our clients. And we talked about experiencing what's possible for our people. And what we meant by that was that anything was possible in our organization. You wanted to be the president? Come on, be the president. Like, we want
Mhm.
to help you get there. So what we looked for was a like-minded company. And we talked to four companies, and really, there was only one that was like-minded, and that was really Sloan at Remington. And Sloan, I had been watching him. I always
Mhm.
watch, me. Like I
Yeah.
said, I consume large amounts of data, and I
Mhm.
had been watching my peer set. There's great leaders out there that I really love. Brad Rahinsky,
Yeah.
Joseph Bojanowski. There's a bunch of
Mhm.
guys that run. Justin Jabara as a young
Mhm.
guy. I would watch all the things they're doing, and then all of a sudden, in about 2018, this new lanky tall guy comes on the scene, and I start seeing all these posts about room to thrive and this and that and
Yes.
the other. And of course, I took notice, right? So
Mhm.
so when we talked, we found out that there was an instant alignment on culture. So that was
Yeah.
great. Then there was an instant belief in delivering a great product and we didn't have to grow for growth's sake, because
Mhm.
Rapid growth without a good plan will lead to mediocrity. And I'm just
Mhm.
not willing to be mediocre, and neither is Sloan. So that was two.
Mhm.
So that was where it started. Um, the advice I would talk about going through it now is look for that fit. There's a lot of companies that will offer a higher dollar figure, and there's a reason.
Mhm.
There's no simple math there's not a math problem where you can say, hey, I'm going to offer you twice as much. Well, guess what? They're going to have to extract that value somehow. A lot
Right.
of times that's either changes to people, changes to business operating, where you could, really ruin something that you worked on for a long time. So I
Mhm.
think be very careful on the cultural alignment and understanding what's going to happen after the fact.
Sure.
I think it says a lot that, and it's not for me, but I think it says a lot that Sloan offered me a role, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times in mergers, I was CEO at Chesapeake, he's CEO at Remington. Normally
Mhm.
somebody goes away,
Yeah.
but he thought it was valuable, and I really do appreciate that
Mhm.
generosity because it did help us transition the team that came over. We brought almost all of our team over,
Mhm.
and our client base. So
Right.
let's see. The last thing, what did I wish I knew? Gosh, it's almost bad to say I'm naive, but we did a really good job. We looked at, okay, what accounting system do you use? Okay, good, we use that system. And what do you use for sales and marketing? Oh, good, we use that. And this. And guess what? The one thing we didn't do that everybody should do that I wish I had done
Mhm.
was, okay, how do you use that system? because
Yes.
because you know how you can use Excel and I can use Excel, but we can
Yeah.
do it really, really different.
Correct.
We got married, and then we were like, wait, you guys put your food and beverage page in the middle of the statement, and ours is the fifth page and yours is the seventh. It
Yeah.
just There was a lot that had to be done, but it was
Mhm.
fun. It was hard
Mhm.
work. It was fun, and we got it done. I mean, again, the marketplace is who dictates whether you did a good job,
Yeah.
and Remington has a lot of new clients that are
Mhm.
very, very happy with what we're doing.
And would you say it's fair to say that during the process of when you were making sure Chesapeake or Remington was a good fit for Chesapeake culturally, do you think it's also just as important for then Remington on the other side to feel like, okay, yeah, we also feel like the culture is a good fit? Like it can't just be a
For
one-way
sure.
thing,
No,
right?
it
Yeah.
can't be. It's
Yeah.
like a marriage,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll have really, and frankly, Sloan and I think if you're bringing executives on, there needs to be some alignment. It's Sloan's show to run, but
Mhm.
if him and I hadn't been kind of lockstep on how you treat people, that would have been
Mhm.
a non-starter for me, right? So
Right.
you got to be. It does have to be both ways. You have to
Mhm.
understand each other. Yep.
Right. Yeah, because you can teach the financials, you can teach how to do the systems, but sometimes the empathy within isn't always something that you can teach people. So I think, yeah, just recognizing the two companies that have that similar values can easily connect. But
Yeah. It makes it much better.
yeah,
Are there still going to be deals for purely financial reasons? Yeah. But I
sure.
think you'll see the outcomes be very different of those purely financial deals.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Mhm.
So, in one of your latest blogs on Hotel News Now, you had some thoughts about quote unquote returns to this and returns to that being somewhat redundant. So, in your words, how would you now describe 2024, the hotel industry landscape?
Well, the reason I wrote that was I was just getting tired because for years we had been, even since I remember, like, so March of 20, and then all of a sudden in July, hey, the return of business travel. No, well, that didn't happen. And the return of
Right.
labor and I just was like, listen, at some point we got to cut the cord and say, this is what it is now. This is the
Mm-hmm.
hotel business. And that's really my statement. My statement is 2024 is going to be how the hotel business is for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything changing with debt rates. I don't see anything changing with cap rates on hotels. I don't see anything changing with the labor that's available. I just don't see anything changing, right? I don't see anything changing with demand specifically
Mm-hmm.
right now. We're getting back to building some hotels. So in my mind, this is a term I don't like, but I don't know what else to say. The new normal. This is how
Yeah.
it's going to be. So 2024 in my mind is going to be a normal year. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to be a grind because there are significant headwinds in the
Mm-hmm.
business. There just are. And so to me, this is an exciting time. I like it when it's difficult because that's
Yeah.
when, if you're really, really good at what you do, you can really shine. And so I would
Right.
encourage all your um, listeners, the general managers and directors of sales, that while you may say, "Man, this is going to be tough," take that as a challenge,
Yeah.
because it's like going to the gym. If you don't stretch those muscles,
Hmm.
how are you going to build them?
I like that. So, some closing thoughts here. I'd love to know, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're proud of and a lot of people that you're proud of, but I want to ask what you are most proud of throughout your career.
So it's interesting when you say you're retiring,
Yeah.
you get a tremendous amount of messages,
Yeah.
and I've gotten 1,000 maybe. I mean, a lot. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot, a lot,
Mhm.
and people that I worked with 15 years ago, 18 years ago, that said, you helped me understand this concept, and now I'm the vice president of revenue management. You
Wow.
know, so I would say the most, for me, I'm most proud of is if I was able to help just one person
Mhm.
see their potential and see their greatness, what they wanted to be, their possibility.
Mhm.
But it seems like I've been fortunate enough to have a hand in quite a number of people's success. Not me, but just helping them to see their success, and
Yeah.
believing in themselves and be curious about what's next. And I mean, that's something that I think lives on as a leader. Like, if you're going to be a leader,
Yeah.
it's not about you. Don't worry about your legacy. Worry about the people and what the life they're building, your teams, their families.
Yeah.
One of my big things was balance. I actually talked about this with somebody yesterday who
Mhm.
said, "I got this guy. He's so great. He works 16 hours a day, and I said, "That's a terrible problem." And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's not dedication. That's poor time management." I said,
Mhm.
the two things there: either you've got the job too big for one human being, or two, the guy doesn't know how to get it done in the right amount of time. If he can't do
Mhm.
his job in 8 or 9 hours a day,
Mhm.
something's wrong. Don't
Mhm.
wear that. Don't wear that as a badge of courage for me,
Yeah.
because I want you leaving here to go home to your family
Right.
and coming back tomorrow fired up. I don't want you worn out.
Mhm.
There's just a lot that I feel like I was able to give to people and fortunately, as I grew my career and had a wider scope of influence, I was able to kind of set policy and standard
Mhm.
about take your vacations and we want you to come. I mean, I just wanted it to be that way. There's no
Mhm.
reason, even though we're 24/7, 365, there's no reason that we can't figure a way to let people have their time, be free to have families, volunteer, serve their
Mhm.
communities, whatever that is. So,
Right. And I'm sure a lot of it too came down to how you modeled that. Like if they saw you taking vacation time or going home, not staying till, 10 p.m. at the office or going to volunteer, that they felt, okay, yeah, it's safe for me to do that too if my upper management is doing those same things.
yeah, I mean, and I didn't know that in the beginning. I learned a
Yeah,
lot. So I wrote about
totally.
a lot of this in my book. We talked before we got on about the book I wrote called
Yeah.
The River Guide to Leadership.
I like that.
Yeah, it aligns a story of a whitewater rafting trip I took and how that has informed my whole career
Mhm.
about the way I lead. And so I talk about that. There was a big seminal moment in my like early 30s where I changed the way I thought about managing. I changed the way I thought about balance, work life,
Mhm.
and everything changed for me then. I was that guy. I was the guy that was chasing the promotion and chasing and trying to outwork everybody. And I used to wear it
Yeah.
as a badge of courage. And
Mhm.
man, I realized that's not a badge of courage. So
Yeah. So I think that ties well into the last thing. I mean, I could be talking to you for hours. I love picking your brain, but I do want to kind of end this on really just any advice that you would give to up and coming talent.
there's a couple things that I always say.
Okay.
One, pick a great company. Okay.
Mhm.
So you look at Glassdoor, talk to people that work there, especially like I said, there's 10 companies that manage most of the managed hotels in the US, right?
Mhm.
Then there's 150 managers, but the rest after the top 10 are 30, 40, which listen, those can be great too.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Chesapeake was 35
Okay.
for most of its life. So, and I loved it and our people loved it. But pick a great company. Do your research. Once you pick a great company, stick it out. Because I can't tell you how many people have missed a huge opportunity because they
Mm.
got frustrated. Like you talked about, like, I'm not getting mine. And they
Yeah.
would jump for a lateral or even a minor growth position with the promise of more. When if they had just kept leaning into what they were doing, the whole
Yeah.
world was getting ready to open up.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm not saying stay in a bad environment, but if you're
Sure.
in a company you love and you believe in
Hmm.
what they're doing and you see growth, that's I gave a speech at the Remington Leadership Conference in February, and I talked about that. I talked about, pick a great company and then put everything you got into it.
Hmm.
And because if it's a great company, they will recognize people and they will grow them. And I mean, all kinds of talent. We had people stand up that had been promoted that year within Remington, and it was an incredible amount of people that had just seen growth because we're growing
Hmm.
and we care about our people. So I would say
Right.
one, stay the course. Two, stay curious. Ask questions. Remember that the goal of your question should be the good of the whole.
Hmm.
If the question's always about how does Dana Miller get the next big job,
Hmm.
nobody's going to want to answer that question because that's not growing the company. But if
Sure.
you're constantly thinking about how do we make this the very best news source in the hospitality industry, you're going to be an undeniable force. And lastly, if you are having a bad day,
Hmm.
go outside, walk around, and remember that you get to take care of people and give them rest and refuge when who knows what they're going through. And I can't
Hmm.
think of a more noble career.
Wow. Mic drop right there, Chris. That was amazing. Really good advice. And I learned so much. I always do every time I speak with you, but this one was definitely made a lasting impression on me. And I'm so glad we got to speak. And I know I'll see you around. But thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait for our listeners to tune into this.
Hi, I'm Isaac Colazo, Vice President of Analytics at STR.
Hi, and I'm Jan Freitag, National Director for Hospitality Analytics for the CoStar Group. Tune in to our new show, Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast.
It's a podcast on the global hotel industry, its current trends, what we're thinking about, and where the industry's going.
And we like to have fun with the data too. Find us on hotelnewsnow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe today.
Thank you for listening. This episode of the Hotel News Now Podcast Network was recorded by Dana Miller on March 28th, 2024, and edited by Rachel Dubb. Check with Hotel News Now for the latest industry news.